Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Mishal Saeed, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're thrilled to have Stephen Shockley, the founder and CEO of Net Funds Gained, joining us. Stephen brings over 20 years of financial expertise, leading a consulting firm that's improved cash flow by 25% for small to mid-sized businesses in manufacturing, tech, and retail. Since founding Net Funds Gained, he's empowered clients with data-driven funding and growth strategies. We'll explore his founding story, how Net Funds Gains drives financial clarity, and his vision for scaling this impactful firm. So let's dive in. Stephen, the mic is all yours. Welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely. We're excited to dive in and find out more about what got you started within the industry and starting the firm. So let's kick things off for the listeners. Take us back to the beginning. What specific problem within the financial or business growth landscape, perhaps around cash flow or funding, inspired you to launch Net Funds Gained?
Well, I spent over a decade in corporate banking, managing multi-million-dollar portfolios of small business clients. And they weren't necessarily struggling, but what they were just didn't really understand the financials part of it. They were all about their business, what they wanted to do, but doing the financials and running the business are two different jobs, and they struggle with it. Over that period of time, I took several of my businesses that I work with there, and I asked them if I could try out a method that I was trying to create to make it scalable for every business to use and to follow, so that it keeps them within the scope of what they want to go, and it gives them an easy path to follow. And so I created the ASE framework, which is the alignment. So just getting them aligned with their goals, where they want to go, and then trying to figure out how to execute those goals, and then a strategy behind it so they can continue to grow. And it was done in such a way that it didn't require an MBA, it didn't require a CPA. It was just easy lingo for them to be able to follow and say, okay, I put this here, this is what the outcome is going to be based on where they want to go. And it successfully worked for three of my companies, where they went from $500,000 in sales a year to over 5 million
Wow.
in a very short period of time.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just finding an easy pathway that anybody could follow. And that was based on my also experience of running businesses, failing in the beginning, figuring out how I did, and wish I had someone like me to be a mentor or to be there beside me to say, ooh, let's think about that. Here's some scenarios. And I guide them. I don't necessarily tell them where to go.
Yeah.
I know where they want to go, so I'm helping them guide their own ship. But if they get off course, I can easily correct it.
Love that. Yeah. Here you are today. You're a mentor for some of those other individuals you've gone through that experience, right? You've seen those struggles and challenges like up front. I'm excited now to really get into the nuts and bolts for our listeners and even potential clients tuning in. Walk us through how Net Funds Gains really generates revenue today. Tell us a little bit about the deliverables, because I know you mentioned the ASU framework. How do you structure what you do for your clients in terms of services? And if you can also share who your ideal ICP is, who you like to work with, I think that would be incredibly helpful for us to also understand really that broader picture.
Right. So in the beginning, I struggled to figure out exactly what my niche was, because I can help any business. And so I had to narrow it down. But my core offering is providing long-term profitability and scalability that can be easily replicated. And I do a discussion, like an hour session with my clients up front, just to understand their business, who they are personally, and what is it they're trying to do, and what challenges they're experiencing. And then I customize the plan around what their long-term goal is, but also milestones that can be met relatively easy, so they can get that mindset that, I see results from my hard work,
Mm.
as we're leading towards the end result. So as far as my packages, it can go from, hey, I can give you the plan and you can follow it yourself, or all the way up to, you know what, I can take care of all of your CFO needs and you
Mhm.
go focus on growing your business and what you're good at and leave all the finances to me. And that can take a lot of stress off of their plate. So as far as structuring it, and as far as the value, it varies on the time spent and the energy that I put into it, but also the complexity of what we're trying to accomplish. Obviously, the harder the complicated, the longer the partnership will be. And of course, that's going to come with a cost. But I look at the structure of cost based on where they are and where they want to go. And is it plausible to get some money getting started, to start the work, and then as we go along, every 6 weeks we negotiate to, hey, this is a milestone where we got, and then we negotiate from there. So typically, I guess on average, it's about 5,000 a month for what I do for the basic to moderate,
Mhm.
and 75 and up from there for to be more hands-on and basically taking over.
Okay, so that's really interesting. There's basically two core offerings here. The basic being you would create the entire plan. It's more of a done with you model, and that's at 5K. And then the fractional CFO component, which is the done for
Mhm.
you key model, is that at 75? Because I wanted to clarify, is it 75,000 or is it 7,500?
It starts at 7,500 for the fractional CFO, and then there's add-ons based on what needs to be done. For instance, if there needs to be executive coaching, if I need to put in SOPs, if I have to train, hire, fire, or set up an HR, those are add-ons, and those are basically reviewed. I usually meet at a minimum at least twice a month. I
Mm.
have some that I meet once a week. It
Yeah.
really depends on what we're trying to get accomplished as quickly as possible so they can see immediate results. And then we come up at usually around the 6 week mark. We're coming around, says, what are three things we did good?
Yeah.
What are three things we did bad? And what three things are we going to work on next month? So that everybody's constantly understanding of what we've done, where we are, and are we on the same path? That way they don't get off key. It's like they have a roadmap that they follow.
Yeah. 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 Lots of accountability from what it sounds like. Lots of
Mhm.
really just those high touch points, a lot of different touch points to make sure the implementation is very high impact. Now, with the two offers that you're running right now, what's that vision for scaling? One seems to be a lot more customized, a lot more hands-on. We've interviewed a few guests that have run very customized offers, very hands-on in terms of that involvement, similar to yours. They found it tough to scale without sacrificing quality. How have you thought about scaling your offerings while keeping it still effective and manageable?
The scaling is a challenge because we're really hands-on, which can be good, but it's also time consuming when I'm the only one in the room and I can't necessarily clone myself.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to is restructure some of our frameworks into more of leadership training and exit readiness advising, putting together like I guess it's like a playbook that they can review and make notes in. And so that I'm not necessarily have to be always there. However, there's a constant connection there. All my clients can call me, they can send me emails, and depending on what they need and what they do, I may do it for nothing. I may charge a little bit,
Yeah.
but my end result is if they're productive and successful, so am I.
Yeah.
And I don't mind giving them advice pro bono if it makes sense. And that has helped leverage, obviously, referrals from their companies and friends, families, and things like that. And that's what really makes my business good is because I've been there, I've
Mm.
been in their seat, I know the challenges that they face,
Mm.
and we work at it together. But the way that I project my advice is it's no excuses, just results. So if I say that this is what you need to do, here's the data that backs that up. This is
Mm.
what you have to do. And if you do, then you're going to see success. That success may not necessarily be what you had envisioned,
Mm,
but it's those little milestones where I try to pick out, hey, we increased your ad revenue generation by 5%.
yeah.
Last month you were at 3. We
Mm,
went up 2%, but we're going in the right direction.
yeah.
So it just helps them keep on. And then the other thing with this is I've been in a place where I've struggled to, do I want to go on? Do I want to sell and just do something else? And so when I can see that in the initial conversation that I have with clients, I can see that they're emotionally and physically tired.
Mm,
And that plays into how I work with them and what I take off their plate. And I can give them real world examples and personal experiences of that struggle that I currently have with running my company here. But none
yeah.
of the advice that I give is
Mm,
not anything that I don't do myself.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes those questions come up. Are you utilizing a lot of these internals, these frameworks internally within your own organization, right? And
Mhm.
that's obviously going to be like the best testimonial when you're your own walking billboard in that sense. Now, you talked a little bit about kind of referrals and like that flywheel effect happening when you're able to deliver results and have your clients really get to where they want to be. What's been working well for lead gen? Would love to learn more about how you're currently acquiring clients, whether it's webinars, referrals, your blog as well, your LinkedIn presence. Are you doing any paid ads? How is all of that structured right now within the business?
Well, as far as where I get my business now versus where I did, I had a strong client base when I left the bank. And so I relied heavily on that and the relationships that I've already made. That's not necessarily something that a lot of people might have when they branch off on their own. It's leap of faith. Oh, I believe in myself. I've got a great product.
Yeah.
What's next? But they were a good stepping stone. But now, and okay, the better way to put this is that marketing and advertising these days is totally different than what I was used to when I had businesses 15, 20 years ago. And so my online presence and videos and just marketing in general is still working. I'm still work that out, but I've had success with posting my meetings because I record my client meetings and it helps them advertise. It helps me advertise. It gives them something, a client or a potential client to look at. Oh, wow, that I could work for me. I need some more information on this. So I found that actual posting client interactions and showing real results
Mm,
has been the best way to build that initial trust and get
mm,
through all the crap on top where, yeah, because my advice that I give is not just your cookie cutter. I can go to a library and I can read out of a business book. It is that coupled with experience plus what I know works and
mm,
insights from today and what's going on now. And that has really provided a lot of additional clients coming in and just a buzz for that. Because the biggest thing in mine is consulting. I'm
mm.
selling me, not
Right.
my spreadsheets or anything like that. I'm selling me. So I try to bring that to my advertising. And with my networks and things like that, with local community, I'm very big in the community on boards. So I try to expose myself with small businesses and people that know small businesses.
Mm,
And to me, that face to face interaction has proved very beneficial. But I've also had to learn as the new generation comes through and running business, it's being turned on its head.
mm,
So, leadership, executive training, executive coaching for some of the newer generations coming out
mm,
is something that I've had to learn
mm.
and to be able to understand their philosophy and how they do business because that work life balance is the same. When I
Mm,
was growing up, I was like, it is 24/7, but let's get it done. And then 2 years in, you're exhausted and you wonder where everything went.
mm.
So making sure that you do enjoy your business and you
Right.
continue to find joy in that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna get burnt out.
Mm,
So it's a different mindset, but yeah, just for me, I guess bottom line, it's just being myself and being genuine
Mm,
and being empathetic about where they are and how they're going to go there. And business, across a business, there's a lot of similarities,
mm,
but there are different types of mental approaches and experiences that I've seen, people that I've been around that approach different problem solving things that have helped me to be more of a, I guess, on the psychological side of business, because it's so mental that you can, you think you got a good idea, but then who do you share those ideas with?
mm,
So, so for me, I like to educate
mm,
as best as I can, because all the knowledge that I have up here does me no good unless I give it to somebody else.
mm.
And without a doubt, there is something, a little nugget that people pick out that, oh, I need help with that, or I didn't think about that, or I
Mm.
know so and so that needs help with this. So the bottom line for me is I just want you to be successful, be happy in your business.
Yeah.
And that looks different for everybody.
Mm,
But at the bottom line, we all want to take home money and we want to have the joy of building a company, but
mm.
running the business, but not let the business run you.
Yeah, absolutely. Such an important lesson, especially with founders and entrepreneurs that are just starting out, where thinking very transactionally about what that end outcome is going to look like, less about, hey, what's the value that I can bring into this market? What's unique? What's proprietary? And what sets me apart from maybe my competitors? And how can I genuinely use that to and leverage a lot of that to generate use cases for my potential clients? And then repeat that process once you do generate that result. From what it sounds like, I think that's awesome. You're very focused on value-based approaches when it comes to really having those conversations initially. Now, on that note, I'd love to learn about your approach to sales a little bit more deeply on that note. What strategies have been effective with converting some of those leads that do come in? Maybe they come across like a client testimonial or they see some of your content online into actual clients for net funds gained. What's been your approach so far? And is it just yourself solo doing those conversations, or do you have a team in place that's also having the sales calls?
It is just me. I do have other consultants. I also do pharmaceutical consulting, which is a whole different ball of wax. And, but it's for me, if it, I guess the shelf life for mine is I either get in front of somebody who has a real world problem now that needs solutions, and they've either talked to someone similar to me,
Mm,
or they've gone on to various sites and did their own research, and whatever they were trying just wasn't working. And I can easily figure out what is going on and fix that real quick. And
mm,
there are some that they've been in business for a long time and they know they have a problem, but they don't know how to ask for help because they feel like if they do, then that means that discrediting them as an owner of the business. And again, it's back to that psychological thing. So my first thing in meeting with them is just talking to them from one business owner to another, as building that relationship and just
mm,
understanding that we all have similar struggles, and to see how we connect on a personal level.
mm,
Because the way that my consulting works, it is very hands-on, it's very personal,
mm,
and we do see a lot of information. And if I see something that seems a bit outside the scope, or potentially, for example, I had a company that used company funds to purchase non-company things and
mm,
they weren't disclosing it correctly. And I said, hey, you know what? It's a big deal. However, we're going to work at it to get this fixed so
mm.
that you can still do that,
Yeah.
but in a more proper way.
Mm,
So it's just understanding, and none of that they want the help, but they don't necessarily know how to either voice it, explain it, or they feel ashamed of that. So I try to reason with it, because I have done that. I've been there, done that. Okay,
mm,
I've made mistakes. I've been audited,
yeah.
but it's here's what I did, or here's a book that I read that helped me with this, or here,
Yeah.
go talk to this person,
Mm,
and they'll talk to you through that, because it's a partnership. So I build that partnerships and referrals through my experiences and people that I trust. And I don't refer anybody to a third party like CPA, for instance,
mm,
unless I know them personally or I
mm,
have actually done work with them. and I grill them just like anybody else should.
Yeah.
So if I refer someone to you, they're legit. And
Yeah.
that was the one thing that I struggled in the beginning was who do I trust? Who do I go to for advice? And how do I know this advice is good?
Mm,
So I've built that network as well. And so by doing that, I don't necessarily get the sale at that one point,
mhm.
but usually throughout the conversation, they'll find out that what's it going to hurt?
Yeah.
Let's look at just tell me one problem that you have. Okay, got it.
Mm,
Here's what we got to do. This is how you're going to fix it. Let's go fix it.
mm. Yeah.
And then I may not charge them for that
Mm,
just because it's one business owner to another.
mm,
Hey, here's some advice. Here's something, work on it. And naturally, that's okay. He fixed that. Maybe we'll dive into something a little bit bigger.
mm,
And so that's how I work as far
mm,
as the sales technique. It's not rocket scientist. It's just me wanting to get to know their business
mm.
and is there something they can help me with as well. So it's and that tends to work very well as far as closing. Usually if I can't get them to buy in on that day, the longest I've had to wait for somebody to come back is a month.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're creating
So
those relationships to begin with, right? You're at least planting
mhm,
those seeds and like starting those interactions and really creating almost in a marketing sense, top of funnel awareness, right? Awareness about a problem at hand. And it's tough, right?
mhm,
Having to interact with individuals, like you said, who they want the help, but they don't even know what they don't know, or they don't want to admit it. And it's a little bit of that discovery, and it's a lot more of that nurturing that takes place in the beginning, like prior to you actually like presenting some of those half-baked ideas and like what can actually work for them within their business. So love the fact
yeah,
that you're really utilizing a lot of consultative approaches, but also like patience, where it's like, let's at least get the conversation started, and if not now, it makes sense to like circle back and look at this a little bit more deeply when it makes sense on your timeline. Our listeners can appreciate that, right? It's less
mhm,
about thinking transactionally, like what I was saying earlier. So the growth has been incredible from what it sounds like. You've accomplished 25% cash flow improvements, and you're really looking into a lot of different ways to start setting up your marketing as well and refining that process on the sales side. If there was like a bottleneck that stood out, what would it be right now? What are you most focused on solving to keep the momentum going? Is it scaling some of the fulfillment, productization on the offer side, refining some of those sales frameworks? If you can share with us, what are some of those woes that you're looking to shift as you go into 2025?
it's a loaded question. I think with going into 2025, one of the biggest things is the automation of the processes that they do. What can I create or what can I do that they can just plug in something and it spits out
Mm,
a some sort of strategy or something that we can discuss or they can use to drive sales or whatever it may be. I like spreadsheets, but they can get cumbersome.
mm,
So I like graphs and charts and things. So I try to automate that. I'm creating an app right now that helps business owners have that. So it gives them real time data
yeah.
at once. So if they're at a sales meeting, they could click it. Okay, so we need this is our goal. We're down by 2.5%, and this is the section that we need to work on. And here are some ideas on how we can get that done.
Mm,
And it helps them strategize and help make quick decisions. Because if you sit there and think too much, you're going to talk yourself out of it or you're going to miss an opportunity. So going into 2025 is streamline the process a little bit more, making it a little easier for them to understand where they're going and already have some of those milestones set up so that they feel that they're staying on track. But the biggest thing is understanding and looking back at themselves is this really where I want to go? And then knowing that they have that resource to
mm,
bounce ideas off. And with all my clients, I check up with them, even if we're not in contract or we're doing any work. I'll check up with them every few months just to see what's going on,
mm.
see how things are going, because you never know. You walk
Yeah.
out one day and you get hit by a tree, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't expect that." So knowing that they have that constant check in, it makes them get that warm feeling. I got a comfort blanket on,
Yeah.
and I've got clients that I just give advice, or they text me on a Saturday saying, "Hey, I got a roofing company." Like, "Oh, I'm having trouble with these government contracts. What do you need to do?" And I'll
Mhm.
talk it through him.
Yeah.
And he's on his way.
Mhm.
So it's that relationship, and creating that relationship and making that a an automatic process is something that I want to continue and expound on in 2025. I'm not really sure all the details on it, but it's just, for me, it's that relationship building, and that's something that never changes, no matter how AI comes in and tries to take over human to human interaction, and that face to face and that
Yeah.
support is what's crucial for anybody's growth, no matter what kind of business you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. From what it sounds like, it's really just like, how do we actually create something that is a little bit more scalable and productized without losing that human touch, right? Where you can still
Mhm.
be involved, you can still have your clients reach out to you whenever they need that support or they're looking for something a little bit more of like a level up, right?
Yeah.
And absolutely, I think in the age of generative AI, we're losing a lot of that essence to begin with. Everything seems to be process oriented in the right ways, but losing that emotional intelligence, right? And really that tailoring aspect when it comes to like,
Yeah.
how do integrate this and mold this for our business to start with, right? So I think that's like such a great way to approach it. And you're still looking at the details. So hopefully you'll be able to explore different ways to see how it all fits in this year.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how you mentioned emotional intelligence, because as AI grows, becomes more sophisticated, and some of the older generation of managers and corporate owners start to cycle out,
Yeah.
there's going to be a time where there's going to be a gap.
Mm.
And that gap is going to say, am I going, what do I trust, what I don't trust, and who are they going to go to?
Yeah.
So instilling that trust your gut and check it. With me, AI is, oh, it's a starter, it's the base, and then I can tweak it instead of just, oh, I like to take it for granted and just shove it in. Eh, You might be successful, but the potential for increased success and long-term growth for generations, it's not going to, I don't feel that's going to go away. And I think that's something that still needs to be focused on. But yeah, I could go on that topic a lot. But yeah, and the last thing is, with business owners, that's their livelihood. That's how they put food on the table with their families.
Yeah.
And they have since that heart connected to it. And we all need that unbiased kind of person that can come in and say, "Hey, you're doing great. You got this going, but you're not taking enough time off. You're not trusting your people. You're not trusting the system.
Yeah.
Let's work on that so
Yeah.
that you can pay yourself more and feel like you can step back a little bit and trust that the system is going to continue to do what it needs to do with a little bit less interaction with the owner or whomever." And then the biggest thing is, what I tell all my new businesses is, create an exit strategy.
Mm.
And if in the beginning,
Mm.
if you have a partner, go ahead and put that exit strategy, or for that, I call it like a prenup, because when it's all warm and happy, you're putting something together,
Yeah.
instead of putting it together when something's going down the drain, someone died unexpectedly, at least you know exactly how things are going to go, and it just takes the stress out of it.
Mm.
And more and more, I see that some of the smaller businesses do not have that, and that's not a great way to run a business. So if I could at least parting some wisdom on that, just, it don't have to be detailed either. Where's it going to go? Who's going to get it? Is it business transfers? And that same goes if you have silent partners. You
Yeah.
still got to understand if they're going to take over or not. All that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely the long-term planning aspect, that's something that's very much overlooked, right? Thinking about it from all different angles, right? When it comes to the succession of the next stage of growth within a business. Now, you have already given us some wisdom, and I want to ask you for some more though, for the listeners, entrepreneurs, and founders that are looking to follow in your footsteps. They're still trying to figure out really some of the ways in which they can approach some of those common challenges that even, yourself, you're unraveling within your business. What's like the best piece of advice you've received about scaling a consulting firm that you would give to our listeners on one parting note?
I guess the one biggest thing would be is don't stop putting one foot in front of the other, no matter how difficult it is. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it. I know that's kind of cliche and everybody says that,
Yeah.
but I always say focus back on your mission statement. Why did you get into this business in the beginning? Why did you start this? Because that's something you have to go back and look at more often than not to keep yourself motivated. This is why I did it. Mine is I want people to run a business, love it, get the joy out of running of it without it consuming their entire life. You got to enjoy it. So you've got to go back and look at this. You have to have those little notes around that you stay positive. If you have someone that you call positive, have them call you and say, "Hey, man, you're doing a great job." Because that's the biggest thing for me is without having that person or that whatever you want to call it, that you can view at any point for inspiration, do it. Because you can go from one high to, and then tomorrow everything seems to be collapsing. But that's entrepreneurship. That's part of doing this business. And that's the exciting part. You're growing, you're learning. And just because it doesn't work out doesn't mean that you can't restart it again.
Yeah.
So just never stop moving forward and trust your gut and surround yourself with trusted, good people and be respectful and make sure that in the beginning too, with clients, they want money. I got to have this client, but you need to know when to cut the cord. And that's really hard to say or do when you only have one or two clients or no clients. And also you get this one here and you know in your gut that this is not going to be a good relationship. This is going to go sour no matter what I do for them. I got to cut bait.
Yeah.
And it's tough, but walk away because it'll end up being better for you because you'll know what you don't like, what you do. And that way you can set those expectations up the next time you meet with a client. And that way you understand in the beginning, oh, they're going to be tough or are they going to be worth my time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it comes down to really like that alignment, right? Finding like the right partnerships that make sense and where you can drive that value, they can also bring you that value at the end of the day, right? Genuine business practices, not just going after any or every client in any of the verticals you can find, but really finding people who are invested in what you have and you can invest back in them and not giving
Exactly.
up, cutting
Yeah,
forward.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's easier said than done.
absolutely.
It's always easy to say to quit. It's those that don't, that will, even if it doesn't work out, they can still look back on that memory and say, you know what, I really found who I wasn't.
Yeah.
And you can't teach that. You can't learn that in school. That's something that the School of Hard Knocks will give to you that you can transfer to other things you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the best things about owning a business, starting a business is the challenge behind it
Yeah.
and failing. I love to fail
Yeah.
because that way I learn. And then now I've got more ammo to help others so they don't experience that, or at least not as, I don't fall headfirst into a pothole.
Yeah, not as hard as maybe yourself going through it.
I'll let them fall, but we'll limit the scrapes and bruises.
Love that. That's such a wonderful note to end the episode on. You're there for your people, and I'm sure they appreciate everything you've done for them. Super exciting to see the way, how you go into 2025 now as you start to really start to scale your community and start to bring more of yourself in the presence of your verticals. On that note, that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Futures. Stephen, thank you so much for sharing your remarkable journey thus far. I was so moved just honestly by seeing a lot of the devotion that you have with your clientele and from 20 years in finance and like really creating like a humanized approach to financial consulting. It's so unique. I don't think we've ever interviewed anyone like this before. I'm extremely grateful to you for sharing your wisdom with us. To our listeners, if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find some more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class sales systems. If you would like to get in touch with Stephen, we'll link his LinkedIn profile below and you can give him a shout. Until then, keep climbing and we will see everyone on the next one.